Hi, my name is Anna, aka Tiger Tits, and I'm a tattooer working out of both Seven Doors Tattoo and Cloak and Dagger in London. The first time I ever went into a tattoo shop was when I was about 15. I was going with an ex-boyfriend to watch him get tattooed, and from what I remember, he was getting some traditional roses and some deep script saying, "Don't lose hope." And I instantly fell in love with tattooing. I remember watching the process from start to finish and feeling a kind of magic and being like, okay, I need to do this. How am I going to do this? My life instantly changed, and it was the first time that I'd ever really felt truly passionate about something. I started channeling all of my teen angst into becoming creative, and I was just trying to draw a lot. Obviously, my drawings were very hideous, but everybody has to start somewhere. I remember I painted this Bride of Frankenstein with these like bright watercolor drips behind it, and I was like, woo, I am an artiste. That design was actually in my portfolio when I applied for my apprenticeship. Somehow I got the job with that disgusting drawing. I don't know. But when I was 18, I started my apprenticeship in a tiny shop in Durban in South Africa, which is my hometown. And that was my start. I apprenticed for about 2 years, and then I ended up studying graphic design, partly for me, but also for my parents. They kind of thought it would be a good idea because I was partying a lot at the time, and I was just like a wild, like young kid. And I'm actually grateful because having those years to really get all of that stuff out of my system, and it was really good for me. It helped me mature a lot, and then when I came back to tattooing, I was really focused and I was super dedicated. I've been really lucky with developing my style. It came quite naturally for me, which is weird because usually I'm quite an overthinker. Since the beginning, I've always been very specific about the way that I want my tattoos to look, and I've always wanted them to really look like I've done them, and then for them to be quite recognizable. My style focuses a lot on naked ladies, which is an ode to traditional tattooing, which has always been very inspiring to me in terms of the history and also just the way that it looks. My work also focuses a lot on subjects like jungly animals, plants, florals, which I think is very influenced by the place that I grew up in South Africa. It's my hometown Durban is a very beachy, tropical place. There's a lot of like palm trees, a lot of nature. It's very green, and there's actually monkeys that like run around the backyard. Since I started tattooing, I've always been drawing this kind of stuff that I grew up seeing around me. And I honestly think, as lame as this sounds, that if you draw enough and draw stuff that genuinely makes you happy, not just like copying other tattooers or what other tattooers are doing, then you'll really develop a style that's quite true to you and unique, and it's just more natural. I mean, I do think taking inspiration from other tattooers and painters and other creatives is very healthy, but I think it needs to be done in moderation. So I guess just drawing these things over and over and like seeing what elements work, what things don't, being like, okay, I like that lady face, I'm going to keep it looking like that for my next kind of drawing. Just kind of trial and error. That's basically what led me to developing the style that I have. I think as a creative, you are constantly developing your style, and pushing to be better and better. I am a firm believer that if you feel totally content with what you're doing, then you're definitely doing something wrong, because that means you're not growing and you're just getting too complacent. For me personally, I think I'm always going to be working harder and developing my work forward, and I just don't think I'll ever get to the point where I won't be able to learn something more or try a new technique or something. So I'm always going to be developing my style. Painting and drawing for me goes hand in hand with tattooing. I always have to have at least 3 or 4 paintings on the go, because I feel that it makes me a better tattooer. It helps me push my style more, helps me develop new techniques and ideas that I can then apply to my tattoos. Painting for me is also definitely an escape. In a busy city like London, and with tattooing being very demanding and quite a social environment with lots of people and talking, painting is my way to kind of zone out and escape, and it's just, for me, is very calming. I take a lot of inspiration from old Indian miniature paintings and the Kama Sutra, as well as Japanese and American traditional tattoos. I'm also very inspired by tribal tattooing in various cultures throughout history. I find it beautiful and incredible to be a part of something that's been around forever, and that's something that really drew me into tattooing. I'm quite an extrovert and definitely a people's person, so I think that throughout the years I've taken quite a lot from my customers and I've given a lot back. I've made some of the closest friends I've ever had in my life through tattooing. People who just started out as clients and through chat just realized we're on the same page, and now these people are like my family. I've always believed that you've really got to put yourself out there if you want to get anything back from people. I think I've learned a lot about myself through my clients, and I definitely believe that the relationship between the customer and the tattooer is whatever you choose it to be. For me, I really make the effort with all my clients. I try to interact, chat, get to know them as best as I can, not only to make them feel comfortable in a stressful situation like getting tattooed, but also because I feel that for me, that's what tattooing is really about. It is about the people, it's about their stories, and the insight that you get from that. I've been tattooing for just over 6 years now, but I've been in the industry since I was 18, so that's about 10 years. In these 10 years, I've seen a lot of changes for sure. I've seen a crazy influx in the number of tattooers, especially here in London. Everybody seems to be a bloody tattooer in a basement in Hackney. I've seen a progression in the way that people approach tattooing. There are so many unique, weird styles that are popping up, and I think that the quality of tattooing is so incredibly high that it's almost overwhelming but very inspiring. Definitely helps to keep me pushing and always trying to do my best. Another big change I've seen is customers' attitudes and what they're wanting to get tattooed. Before, people were maybe like, oh, I'll stick to something a bit safer, like a rose or like a traditional dagger. And lately people are just like, oh, you could just do whatever you want. Oh, do what you want to do, which is such a cool feeling, and it really makes me feel taken very seriously as an artist and super grateful. So when people say, oh, you can do whatever you want, I'm like, okay, cool, let's do this weird naked lady. She'll have massive boobs and she'll have like a leopard print body. And generally people are like, okay, cool, let's do it. If I wasn't tattooing, I'd probably be a painter, or I'd definitely be working with kids. I've always loved children, and the idea of teaching, probably like art or something like that, it's always really appealed to me. I've been using coil machines since I started tattooing, and I love everything about them. My favorite coils are my Scott Sylvia shader, which I use every day on pretty much every tattoo. I first used a Scott Sylvia shader when I was working in South Africa, and I fell in love with it. So much so that my friend Luke actually had to lend it to me for like 2 years because I just honestly couldn't say goodbye to it. Even when I moved over here to London from South Africa, I brought his bloody machine with me. I just could not leave it. My other favorite coil machine is a custom-built Joel Dodds liner. He is a really great machine builder, and this liner is perfect. I can't fault it. Tattooing honestly means everything to me. It's given me way more than I could have ever asked for in life. It's brought me my husband, it's brought me my best friends, it's allowed me to travel the world and guest in places that I'd always wanted to visit but didn't think I'd end up there. It's brought me to London, which had always been my dream, and tattooing is honestly forever something I'll be grateful for and very humbled by. My immediate tattoo plans with regards to travel are in the next month I'll be visiting Sri Lanka, and I'll be tattooing there for about 2 weeks, which I'm really excited for. Next year I want to plan to do like a couple more Europe guest spots and maybe do like a little sexy European tattoo tour, something like that. I think next year I'm also going to focus on traveling a bit more around the UK. Like, I've never been to Scotland before, and I think that could be really cool. I also want to do a couple more conventions in Europe as well as around the UK. I'm going back to South Africa next year, also for a convention, which is going to be super fun. It's the South African Tattoo Convention. You guys should check it out and definitely come. It's beautiful. And other than that, I reckon I'm just going to be painting and drawing and carrying on. So if you want to get tattooed by me, come to London, 7 Doors Tattoo, Cloak and Dagger Tattoo. We'll do some sexy tats. You can have a look at my flash. You can get some boobs on ya. Let's do it.